Let us consider that Samsung is already working on One UI 9. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what's happening behind the scenes. We got our hands on an early test firmware of One UI 9 running on the S26 Ultra, and today I'm going to show you everything we've discovered. This isn't your typical beta preview. We're talking about super early development builds that give us a glimpse into Samsung's future plans. Before we dive in, let me be clear about something important. One UI 9 is still months away from any public release, and what we're seeing today will definitely change before the final version. But here's why this matters to you right now. Samsung's development cycle gives us clues about where mobile technology is heading, and understanding these early changes helps you make better decisions about your next phone upgrade. So grab your coffee, hit that like button if you're excited about Samsung's future, and let's explore what One UI 9 has in store for us. Let's start with the basics that everyone wants to know. One UI 9 is built on top of Android 17, which is Google's next major Android release scheduled for 2026. Now here's something interesting. This early firmware is so new that some parts of the interface still show Android 16 instead of Android 17. That tells you just how early in development this really is. Samsung plans to debut One UI 9 with the Z Fold 8 and Z Flip 8, which makes perfect sense given their usual release pattern. The company loves to showcase their latest software on their most premium devices first. After the foldables get One UI 9, we'll see it roll out to the S26 series through beta programs. Then comes the usual cascade down to older flagships and eventually mid-range devices. This timeline puts us somewhere around mid-2026 for the initial release, so we're still more than a year away from seeing this in consumers' hands. Now let's talk about what's actually new in this early build. If you were expecting massive visual overhauls like we saw in previous major updates, you might be a bit disappointed. Samsung already made huge design changes with One UI 8.5, so One UI 9 is taking a more refined approach. Think of it as polishing the diamond rather than cutting a new one. The most noticeable change we found is in the quick settings panel. The volume and brightness sliders are now wider and thicker than before. This might seem like a small detail, but it actually makes a big difference in daily use. Wider sliders are easier to grab and adjust, especially when you're using your phone one-handed. Samsung has also moved parental controls out of the digital well-being menu and given it its own dedicated section in settings. Parents who regularly manage their kids' device usage will appreciate having quicker access to these controls. It's one of those changes that shows Samsung is listening to how people actually use their phones. The lock screen media player got some attention too. Instead of the old media output label, you now see this phone when selecting audio output devices. It's clearer and more straightforward language that anyone can understand. Media controls also got a visual refresh with circular buttons replacing the old grouped rectangular containers. These might seem like tiny details, but they add up to create a cleaner, more modern interface. We're also seeing enhanced waveform animations in the media player. The animations are smoother and less jittery compared to earlier versions. Samsung is clearly focusing on making interactions feel more fluid and responsive. There are hints of more glassy UI effects throughout the interface. These translucent elements give the software a more premium, layered look that matches the high-end hardware. However, we'll need to wait for later beta versions to see how far Samsung takes this design direction. Now let's dive into the Android 17 features that One UI 9 brings to Samsung devices. One of the coolest new capabilities is the ability to open any app in a floating bubble. Imagine being able to run your favorite social media app in a small floating window while browsing the web. This takes multitasking to a whole new level, especially on Samsung's large screen devices. Google has also made apps more adaptive across different screen sizes. Developers can no longer lock their apps to specific orientations or aspect ratios. This is huge news for foldable users who often deal with apps that don't scale properly. The Z Fold and Z Flip series should benefit massively from this change. Apps will automatically adapt to different screen configurations without those annoying black bars or stretched layouts. Android 17 introduces a smarter contact picker system. Instead of giving apps access to your entire contact list, you can now choose exactly which contacts to share. This gives you much more control over your privacy and personal information. Advanced Protection Mode is another security enhancement coming with Android 17. While Google hasn't revealed all the details yet, This feature should provide additional layers of protection against malware and malicious apps. Samsung will likely add their own security enhancements on top of Google's implementation. Direct satellite connectivity gets improved support in Android 17. When cellular networks aren't available, your phone could potentially connect to satellites for emergency communications. This technology is still developing, but it could be a game changer for people who travel to remote areas. Ultra-wideband technology is getting better distance measurements between compatible devices. This could improve features like Samsung's SmartThings Find Network or enable new location-based features we haven't seen yet. Gaming performance is also getting attention with various optimizations and new developer tools. Samsung's Game Booster features should become even more effective with these underlying improvements. Let's talk about the Galaxy AI features that Samsung is developing for One UI 9. Ask AI is a new AI assistant that integrates directly into Samsung's browser. This assistant can open multiple windows side by side, which could revolutionize how we browse and research online. Imagine asking your AI assistant to compare products while shopping, and it automatically opens multiple browser windows with relevant information. There's also a feature called Enable Cross-Device Resume in development. This would let you start browsing on your phone and seamlessly continue on your tablet or laptop. Apple has similar features with their ecosystem, so Samsung is clearly working to match that level of integration. The AI features are still very early in development, so we expect to see much more announced at Google I/O 2026. Samsung will likely add their own AI enhancements on top of whatever Google introduces. One thing that's worth noting about this early firmware is how stable it already feels. Despite being in very early development, the core functionality works surprisingly well. This suggests Samsung has been working on One UI 9 for quite some time behind the scenes. The company is clearly taking a methodical approach to development rather than rushing features to market. Performance feels smooth and responsive, though we're testing on flagship hardware that should handle anything you throw at it. Battery life seems similar to current One UI versions, which is good news since major updates sometimes impact power consumption. The camera app and other core Samsung features work exactly as you'd expect. Samsung isn't breaking what already works well. They're just adding polish and new capabilities on top. Here's what we expect to see as development continues over the next year. More Galaxy AI features will definitely be added as Samsung refines their artificial intelligence strategy. The visual design will probably get more tweaks and refinements based on user feedback. Samsung typically runs extensive beta programs that help them identify issues and improvement opportunities. We'll likely see more Android 17 features integrated as Google reveals them throughout 2026. The timeline for One UI 9's release follows Samsung's predictable pattern. Mid-2026 launch with the new foldables, followed by beta programs for the S26 series. Older flagships will get the update in late 2026 or early 2027, depending on how testing goes. Mid-range devices will probably see One UI 9 sometime in 2027. So there you have it, our first look at Samsung's One UI 9 running on Android 17. While the changes might seem subtle compared to previous major updates, that's actually a good thing. Samsung is focusing on refinement and new functionality rather than changing everything just for the sake of change. The wider sliders, improved animations, and better app compatibility should make daily use more pleasant. Android 17's new features, like floating app bubbles and improved contact privacy, give us exciting capabilities to look forward to. And the Galaxy AI improvements show Samsung is serious about integrating artificial intelligence into everything we do. Remember, this is still very early development, so expect much more to be revealed over the next year. We'll keep digging into this firmware and testing new features as Samsung adds them. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our future One UI 9 coverage. What feature are you most excited about in One UI 9? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this early look helpful, smash that like button to help other Samsung fans discover what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.